Hello, good evening indeed, and many thanks for joining us here on Rwanda Television News. We hope you had yourselves a very fruitful day. Now, at top of our edition tonight, these are our headlines. The President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, states that African continent should see the high number of the youth as an advantage towards solving issues around the continent. On Tuesday, Rwandan Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente received the Serbian delegation in Rwanda for a 3-day working visit with the aim of developing bilateral relations. Hello once again, we're very glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Martina Ebera and I'll be with you tonight. Now, kicking off our bulletin, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, states that the African continent should see a high number of the youth as an advantage towards solving issues around the continent. The head of state made the remarks in his ongoing visit in the Western African countries. Prince Manzi has the report.
On his second day of visiting Guinea, President Kagame and the President of the Transitional Government, Kano Mamad Doumbouya, witnessed the inauguration of the completed infrastructures, including a highway interchange connecting Kabelen and the capital city, Conakry. The highway is now named after President Paul Kagame. Monday evening, President Paul Kagame arrived in Conakry on his 2-day state visit. Upon arrival at the Conakry airport, President Kagame was received by the President of the Transition in Guinea-Conakry, Kano Mamad Doumbouya. The head of state demonstrated that Guinea and Rwanda have the ability to solve issues found.
They're very warm welcome.
I came here to tell you that we are ready to collaborate with you. Every country on our continent has problems. In Rwanda we have ours, and in Guinea there are also problems. Working together can solve all issues.
I'm really very happy to be here.
Guineans demonstrated that they are happy to host President Kagame.
L'arrivée de Paul Kagame en Guinée, c'est une fierté pour nous les Guinéens.
The visit of President Kagame in Guinea is a pride to us as Guineans. As he is a president who developed his nation, so his visit in Guinea is an energy boosted, as we are also willing to make our country like Rwanda or even better. He has some solutions, hence a warm welcome to him. It is expected that the two countries will sign cooperation agreements in various sectors. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report. Now, not moving far, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency President Paul Kagame, states that partnering and working together is the only solution to various issues still found on the African continent. The remarks were made in his official visit in Guinea-Conakry. Prince Manzi continues.
On a higher morale in Guinea-Bissau, the special force of the army of this country received the Commander-in-Chief of Rwanda Defense Force, President Paul Kagame, in songs usually sung by the RDF. President Umaro Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau conferred the Amilcar Cabral Medal on President Kagame, the highest distinction in Guinea-Bissau. An act that President Paul Kagame demonstrated as a symbol of great bilateral relations and emphasized the development of these relations will continue to be in favor of citizens.
Rwanda and Guinea-Bissau are working together to build a solid foundation for cooperation that will benefit our citizens. Like the rest of Africa, the most important resource Rwanda and Guinea-Bissau possess is a young population. Our duty is to ensure stability that allows us to create enabling environments for our youth to utilize their skills and reach their full potential. I want to take the opportunity, Mr. President, to appreciate your efforts as the chair of ECOWAS, that you apply to regional stability and elsewhere on our continent. Indeed, at a time where multilateralism is facing multiple challenges, Africa needs to work even more closely together on the issues that matter most to our people.
This was also emphasized by President Umaro Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau, who visited Rwanda twice in 2022.
E também saudar os esforços que o presidente.
I would like to thank President Paul Kagame on his efforts towards the development of Africa and the contribution to Guinea-Bissau. I would like to remind you that in my recent visit to Rwanda, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs signed various MOUs between the two countries. We are happy to share our experiences, so we are going to strengthen our relations based on this visit. In this visit, the two nations signed various MOUs with the aim of eliminating visa requirements for their citizens. These MOUs add on the already existing in trade, education, tourism, and bilateral air service agreement. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report. Now, on Tuesday, the Rwandan Prime Minister, Dr. Edouard Ngirente, received the Serbian delegation in Rwanda for a 3-day working visit with the aim of developing bilateral relations.
The delegation from Serbia is led by the Minister of Internal and Foreign Trade of Serbia, Tomislav Momirovic, who states that his country is willing to develop partnership fields with Rwanda.
Rwanda is a true friend for Serbia, and we really respect that. And we like to be here in Rwanda and to increase our connections because, look, last year we had 60 years of unalignment movement in Belgrade. There are around 60 different nations all over the world. We like to promote that equality, fair international law for everyone. That's our world. We are all together here. We have to have unity and to fight together for a better future. In Africa, in Europe, in Asia, we are all the same. This earth, it's our earth.
The Minister of State in charge of East African Community, Professor Joti Manasseh, revealed that in the conclusions of discussions between the Prime Minister and the Serbian delegation include covering the gap caused by the deduction of cereals imported from Ukraine and Russia. We agreed on importing maize and soy and at a lower price, and we also have a lot to export there, including coffee, and Serbians can enjoy touring Rwanda and visit mountain gorillas. Serbia is also developed in technology. We would also like to send some of the scholars there for acquiring education. Rwanda and Serbia have a long-standing trade and diplomatic relations since 1971. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report again. Now, since Saturday, there has been a fighting between Sudan's army and the country's powerful parliamentary group, the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, after they fell out over issues of who should be in command. Now, joining us now over the phone from Sudan is Rwanda's Minister Counselor in that country, Abel Buhungu, to tell us of the current situation in that country. You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and now let me begin by asking you if the 24-hour ceasefire that was announced between both sides has come into effect. Can you tell us if that is really the case right now?
Well, not the exact situation. I would say in the last 1 hour, there is relative calm, though punctuated by some intermittent shooting. But we are hopeful. Maybe in the coming hours we'll see the realization of that promise.
All right, thank you. Now, what about the Rwandan nationals in that country? Are they safe? What is the situation for them?
Well, safe cannot be the exact definition of their current state until when fighting stops and normalcy is restored. Yes, we have not had any recorded injury or death, but they are like all residents here in a state of fear plus other challenges of life in a situation of war, as you'd expect.
Okay, and was there any prior indication that the violence might flare up, and are there any indications that a peaceful approach is going to be able to resolve this problem? Will it be taken moving forward?
On prior indications, what I would say is yes, tensions had been reported between both leaders. But I think if I speak for myself and a few others that I've spoken with, we didn't expect full-fledged fighting to begin, nor did we expect it to begin the time it did. And on whether we might see calm, given the gravity of the situation, fighting in the capital and the humanitarian implications of that, as you might be aware, a number of world leaders have intervened. They are speaking to the parties involved. Examples include the UN, the US, IGAD leaders, EU, and others. And we believe sooner or later, we are hopeful, sooner or later we may see calm restored in the country. Yeah.
Yes, and as we wind up, you have talked about the interventions of different international communities. Has that made a difference?
It's work in progress. We are not privy to the exact status of the engagement, but I believe, like the promise that was made of having a truce for the 24 hours must have been an outcome of those efforts. So we are hopeful we shall, with time, get to the ultimate objective that is needed, and that is some calm, with possibly some talks between the leaders that are involved in this conflict.
All right, that was Abel Buhungu, Rwanda's Minister Counselor in Sudan. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to Rwanda Television.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, now moving on, officers from 20 countries across the globe convened in Rwanda for a 4-day workshop on support relationships in armed conflict and partnered military operations.
30 officers, including major generals, convened in Rwanda for a 4-day workshop on support relationships in armed conflict and partnered military operations. The International Committee of the Red Cross, head of operations in Burundi, Uganda and Rwanda, Martin Agure, states that Rwanda contributes highly in peacekeeping operations, hence holding this workshop in Rwanda.
Rwanda has developed into a key regional security provider and the prime African troop contributing country for the United Nations peacekeeping missions, participating in partnered military operations in a multi and bilateral settings, for example, in the Central African Republic, South Sudan, Mozambique, just to name but a few. This contribution of the ICRC to protect and assist victims of armed conflict and other situations of violence naturally brings me to the reason for which we are all gathered here this morning, which seeks to increase the decision makers' understanding of the roles they can play in mitigating risks of civilian protection and population, for the wounded, for detainees when designing and implementing their support. It also aims to identify practical measures that can be taken on either side of a partnership to mitigate risks, if not to deliver positive humanitarian outcomes, and in doing so to increase the body of knowledge in this field.
The head of peace support operations of Rwanda Defense Force, Brigadier General Rwansanga, emphasized that partnered military operations are critical.
We are all aware that we are currently living an era in which the level of human suffering as a result of armed conflict seems to be escalating exponentially. At the very heart of the human suffering, we are witnessing the plight of civilians and especially the most vulnerable, including women, children, and the elderly. Millions of civilians have known nothing but war, with appalling consequences on their mental health, I'm sure that in the course of this week, we will be able to share experiences showing how patterned military operations are critical.
The support relationships in armed conflict and partnered military operations are included in the Geneva Convention. These 30 officers are from 30 countries, including those in the region and overseas, such as Belarus, Netherlands, USA, and Russia. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report. Now, biodiversity experts are warning people that the wildlife should be protected in every way possible, with special emphasis on the ones that are on land. This was announced by these experts in Musanze district after 2 days of discussions involving different institutions, including the justice system, lawyers, and other institutions related to the protection of the ecosystem. RDB organized these discussions with its partners, saying that it wanted to share with other countries the knowledge about the biodiversity and the activities, because most people commit these crimes without knowing what they are doing. Some of the countries have shown that they have put in place strong measures to protect these species, where special prosecution and judicial bodies have been established to pursue them. What has Rwanda benefited from these discussions? Ngoga Teresfor is an RDB employee in the Department of Tourism and National Parks Conservation.
There are those
that have shared with us a progress report in line with uncovering illegal trade with the help of police dogs that are able to sniff out drugs at airports or borders, or those that are trained to detect drugs coming from plants.
Rwanda is not the only country that has benefited from this meeting. Various other countries have as well. Dr. Andrew Seguya is the Executive Secretary of Greater Virunga, which is joined by Rwanda, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
It has been one of the most important symposiums that I've attended of late on a very important matter of IWT, the illegal wildlife trade, and a lot of important resolutions have been made in as far as an interagency committee to facilitate the work among government departments and partners, capacity building for people who deal with areas where IWT is likely to happen, such as the police, customs, and also the general public. There were issues of training, creating a division of the judicial system to handle cases of wildlife crime, and also creating a division within the forensic laboratory that can be able to help the judicial system in establishing whether a product which has been confiscated is wildlife or not. And so these are very, very important issues. Setting up a canine unit, because humans are part of the problem in the IWT, in illegal wildlife trade. It's the humans that do this. And so putting a different element of the canine dogs to help us in enforcement, I think is going to be a very important thing. So it has been a very, very, very important meeting that brought government, that brought NGOs, that brought researchers and interest groups, and I think what has come out has been very fruitful.
The participants of these talks also vowed to publicize these laws that protect the biodiversity and to do everything possible to preserve them. These talks were attended by about 80 people and had the purpose of mobilizing the residents of the district and other countries to stand together and fight against those who abuse the wildlife ecosystem from all walks of the earth. Hospitality practitioners across the country have come together to pay tribute to deceased hoteliers that fell victim to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Precious Chirezi has the report.
Hoteliers across the country convened a Kigali genocide memorial and laid wreaths on the mass graves in tribute to the 250,000 bodies whose final resting place is the memorial. A former employee of Hotel Milcolin reiterated his working experience at the hotel during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi as a tragic and difficult time, and he had been attending to guests per usual, oblivious to what was to come.
My wife and 2 children were murdered and I escaped with 6 other people. After that, I continued working at Mikolin until I retired. People should have more companionship and forget past wrongs. Those with bad intentions should let them go so we can live in peace and unity.
Hoteliers have expressed that what occurred during that time was beyond human understanding and have commended Rwanda Patriotic Army for putting an end to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, simultaneously urging Rwandan citizens to prevent any hindrance to the country's progress. We were able to discuss the history of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi that will enable us to rebuild as we remember. One of the leaders of the hotel unions also commended the bravery of the RPA and emphasized that the country's development should be everyone's mandate. We should rebuild our country to honor the sacrifices of those who liberated us, and we should join them in the journey of rebuilding. This was the first event to commemorate hoteliers that fell victim to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and it aspires to be an annual occasion. Precious Chidezi, RTV News.
And on that note, on behalf of the production team, we would like to thank you for sticking with us on RTV News. Have yourself a great night.